Good afternoon. I'm Victoria Simmons with the Georgia Post, and this is this week's edition of the Georgia Post Review. Our guest this week is Pam Busbee, Probate Court of Crawford County. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And my co-host is Linda Reynolds this afternoon. So Pam, you're from Crawford County, right?
Yes, ma'am. Born and raised.
Tell us a little bit about your background and.
Well, how far back do you want me to go?
Well, you were raised here. Just
Yeah.
Did you go to high school here too?
I did. I went through elementary school, middle school, high school.
Wow.
I was born and raised here. My mom and dad were, well, my mom was from actually Pike County, but they've lived here as long as I've been here, and I'm the sixth child of six, so I have older brothers, sisters. I have a twin.
Really?
You do?
Mm-hmm. She works in Dr. John's office.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
We just don't look anything alike.
Oh, now she was born first?
Yes.
So you really are number 6.
I am number 6.
Do you want? Is she all that over you?
No, we get along really well. All of us do.
So because you grew up here, is that what made you want to run for probate judge?
Well, actually, I was approached by some other people in the community, asked me to look into it, and I did, and I was excited, so I went for it. So far I've really enjoyed it. This is my 13th year.
Wow.
Right.
It's
So
a long time.
I'm in my 4th term
Okay. So when will the election come up again?
when the presidential election comes
Okay.
in.
All right. So 2020. So.
Mhm.
Well, tell us a little bit about what probate court does.
Well, we deal mostly with a lot of the deceased estates, and what I mean by that, we deal with wills, and people that do not have wills, which we consider administrations. We do year supports. We also deal with guardianships over adults, both guardianships and conservators. We do minor guardianships, and we do permanent guardianships of minors that have deceased parents. And then we also, we do weapons carry licenses, and we do marriage licenses, and there's a whole, we issue vital records, which is death, birth certificates, and of course we issue the certified marriage license, but only for the county that we actually live in. We can actually issue birth and death certificates from anywhere from the state of Georgia, as long as you were born in Georgia.
Okay.
Can you perform marriages too, or is that the?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I can, but I choose not to. I haven't in many years.
Yeah.
So you said you do a year's support. What is a year's support?
It gives a spouse 12 months to get everything lined up, and so it gives her 12 months to actually get everything in order for her and the kids, if there are minor children involved, to try to settle the estate, to know what's there and what you can do and what's involved.
So how often do you actually hold a court per se?
Well, I have traffic. I neglected to say I also handle traffic court. We have traffic court every other month. It's every third Wednesday. We usually pack a house. It was easier we had it once a month, but we changed it every other month. It's just time purposes. It was better on the community and easier to handle as far as time set up. And
So by the time 2 months go by, you're handling 2 months worth of traffic tickets?
yeah, sometimes 4, because we'll give a one-time continuance for any reason.
Okay.
And then sometimes it's longer. Like January's court date, we had to put off because of the day we had court was the same day we got all the snow.
Oh.
So it was automatically continued. So we actually had, in March, we had 2 court dates in
Wow.
one. So that March was very busy.
So about how long is that court? I mean, how long does that last? How many hours?
By the time we complete court, serve everyone that we're supposed to serve, get everything in the computer, it takes a couple of days.
And then court itself, with that many?
No, about 3 hours sometimes. But the DA's office works with us. They're our solicitors. We have 2 solicitors that come in on court date, and they handle a lot of the stuff that we can as a court handle, because we're supposed to be, we're supposed to be unbiased. We're not supposed to be biased toward anybody,
Right.
and we can't hear the cases ahead of time. So it's just a plea day only. You either plead guilty or not guilty. And then we set up hearings based on who pled not guilty. So the court varies.
So if I were to get a speeding ticket in Roberta, would...
Well, I don't do Roberta. They
Okay,
have their
you
own
just do
municipal.
that.
I only do the
Yeah.
county.
Okay, so if I were to get a speeding ticket on my way back to Byron, from a county sheriff.
Right. Or GSP.
Okay, then I would come before you.
Yes. And that day is your arraignment day only. You either enter a plea.
So you don't actually, do you actually rule on anything?
Not on arraignment days.
No, okay.
I've actually been through this once in Byron. The judge basically told us, if you plead innocent and take this to actual court, we will not be very kind to you.
I don't choose that route. You're innocent until proven guilty.
And that's the way it's supposed to be. I've had that experience in Byron too, so.
I really enjoy it. We try to help as many people as we can, but we're limited. We can't give legal advice that's, especially if we don't know the whole, if you see an attorney, they can ask questions that as a court we cannot ask, because it's more than say, my dad's deceased. What do I do now? I mean, well, what does your dad own? What consists? Does he have retirement? Does he have property? Does he have not two spouses, but an ex-wife and other children? There's more involved. And so my dad's deceased or my husband's deceased. Where we go? There's more questions than just that.
Okay.
So
And how many people work at probate court?
there's just two of us. It's just Lindsay and I.
That sounds like a very hectic schedule for just two
Sometimes it
people.
is. Sometimes it is, especially if one of us is out, then the other one covers. And as a judge, that's kind of hard with it. I'm the one answering the phone, taking payments, and trying to do my job and keep.
And Lindsay's full name?
Oh, it's Lindsay Gilmore Hudson,
Okay.
and she's worked there. I think this is going on her 5th or 6th year. I can't keep it straight. I know the date, but I can't remember the years. It's like birthdays. I can remember my birth date, but I don't want to remember the
How
number
old
of
are
years.
So you actually do take up fines, right?
I do. We take
Okay.
fines.
So what kind of accountability is there for the probate?
Well, we have a software program that we use that does all of our accounting for us. And we do a report at the end of each day, and we account for the monies, and then that money's turned in once a week to the bank. And then we send reports off monthly to the different agencies that we collect money for.
So who actually oversees all that, the oversight person?
We have, Lindsay does the day-to-day, and I do the weekly. And then we have an internal auditor that actually looks at the books, and then we also have external that come in once a year.
Where does your funding come from? Is that from the
It's from the
fund?
county.
From the fund. Okay.
So when you take in monies, let's say somebody dies and I come to you and you say, okay, well, this will cost this much.
Right, it's $160.
$160 for the death certificate?
No, the death certificates are handled through vital records.
Okay,
And we just happen to be custodians for vital records.
okay,
But not all probate courts are. It's just some are, but not all.
okay. And so that money that I pay, that $160, where does that get
It gets dispersed. The law library gets the ADR, which is Alternative Dispute Resolution. And then you have there's an indigent fund that's for when we do marriage licenses. But it gets split up for several different ways. I mean, with a speeding ticket, if you go to 10 different people.
Oh,
10
Really?
different agencies.
is that why they're so expensive?
Well, I mean, just say, for example, for your speeding going, say 69 and 55, our fine is 122. But the base fine is only what the county gets, but certain things come out of it. So the county could only get $70 out of 122.
And the rest gets split up
It
to
gets-
various
it-
agencies?
Yes.
Does it support police officers?
Yeah, there's a
and-
police officer.
Then I'm sure the state has their fingers in the pie?
Yes, they have several fingers, but that's,
Is that so much a mile, the speeding fine?
it is.
What is that?
It just varies.
Okay.
It's at the court's discretion.
Okay.
So if I go to trial and I plead innocent and I wasn't going that
If
fast.
you go to arraignment and you plead innocent, and then you will to have a hearing, you have a choice.
So
I mean,
I
you
wasn't going that fast.
Right, you have an option of a jury trial, which with a jury trial, you have to found it at the Superior Court. If you want a bench trial, then that will remain in probate court, and you have to sign a waiver for that.
And then
I can hear both cases. I can hear both parties, but both parties have to be present.
okay.
That's why on arraignment day, you can't hear anything, because the officers aren't there. So they come in and plead not guilty, then we'll set up a hearing at a later date. And then whoever, and we base it on, we try to get it scheduled where it's convenient to both of them. So sometimes we give them at least 10 days notice, so it can be a month later. If the officers are on vacation, then we have to have it at the officer's discretion. Because the court does not have funds to pay officers to come in on their off days. We have to do it on their schedule based on when they're on duty.
So that pulls them off duty,
Yes.
too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not to put you on the spot, but has there any been cases where you actually rule for where you did get to rule for the person instead of?
I have. It's all in how you present it.
Yeah. Because
I mean, I think a person's attitude has a lot
Yeah.
to do with anything.
And I've heard that the radar guns can actually can actually not be right. They can get the wrong car or whatever if they're kind of side by side.
Well,
So, anyway, I just want.
That's more of a GSP or a
Yeah, I know,
question. They
question.
know how it works. I
Yeah.
will be going through a DUI class when they have it for the judges. The judges went through one, a couple last year, but I didn't get to attend because it conflicted with my court dates.
So, what does that mean?
Well, we'll actually get to observe people. We'll actually go through the classes that the officers go through.
So you'll get to hear DUI cases as well?
No, I get to see it actually performed.
Okay.
The field sobriety test and HGN test and everything. I get to see all that happen and what's entailed in it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, what if they use the glasses that, I've been through that kind of before, but yeah, that was kind of weird. So, what would you tell citizens if they need services from your office? I mean, especially, just kind of break it down, like say, if there was a death in the family, what would you tell them that they need to be prepared for? What would they need? What do they need to do?
Well, they need to know what's in the estate, what it consists of. You can't just expect to go through the probate court and say, hey, my dad or my mom or my husband passed away, what do I do? I mean, there's several options available, and the only way to get which one best suits your situation is actually to see an attorney. We have Georgia, goodness gracious, the name went right out of my head. Legal Aid.
Okay.
Legal Aid, Georgia Legal Aid out of Macon that actually will answer questions
Oh, okay.
for you. And we've actually had cases where Legal Aid's actually filed it for the individual.
So don't you have to file a will if somebody dies, if there is one?
Yes, it's required just because you have a will doesn't mean you actually have to probate it. It just depends on what's in the estate. They could have already handled everything prior to the will, prior to their dying.
Right.
But it's still mandatory by law that it at least be filed with the probate office of the county that you live in.
And if the person dies without a will, that's called intestate?
Intestate.
Okay, and then what do the heirs do? They just-
Well, it just depends. If there's nothing there to administer, then there's no reason to spend, because the administration is actually a lot more expensive. I mean,
Okay.
you have to, depending if it has to be advertised, you have the advertising cost, and then you have the cost for the actual petition, which is the same as a probate, but you have $95, and then if anyone has to be served, if it's personal service, it's $50 per person.
Wow.
I mean, it can get expensive, so I mean.
Sure can. So don't die without a will.
No,
is what
it's a
you're
lot
saying.
easier to pass with a will than it is without one. But there are circumstances where people know they're sick, and if they can take care of it ahead of time, they can. Because sometimes you can have your property set up where it'll pass upon death, and it bypasses the probate process.
Okay. Very interesting.
Very interesting. What else, other advice, or what other things that you handle, would you tell the public that they need to know or take care of ahead of time?
Well, as far as traffic, there's not a whole lot you can say about it.
No, just don't speed.
Just don't speed. It is what it is. Don't drive without a license. Do not drive without insurance. It gets expensive. I mean,
Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's pretty basic.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. I mean, it's just, so common sense goes a long way.
It
Yeah,
does
but
indeed.
apparently a lot of people don't have it
Yeah.
in those cases, but yeah, that's true.
You know,
So
it's-
not every probate court also does traffic court?
Correct. Like Bibb County Probate, she does mainly just probate. She doesn't do vital records or anything. She does guardianships and everything that I do, but hers is, of course, her population is almost
Lots
a
more.
lot more than what ours is, so we handle a lot more. But like, say, for example, Houston County, she does nothing but probate, but she also handles vital records.
Okay.
And so a lot of your health departments do vital records too. And then too, it's like over in Taylor County, she's also the magistrate judge. So some of the offices are combined with other offices. Like the magistrate, she serves as magistrate as well as probate. And then some of the probate offices handle elections. I don't handle elections, have not ever, thankfully, handled elections, because again, there's a lot of training that goes into it. And Miss Brenda Peacock actually does a wonderful job of handling all that.
So you still live in the county?
I do. You have to live here. You have to live in the county.
That's criteria.
Yes.
Okay. So you really want to take care of your neighbors.
We try to help as many people as we can,
Sure.
but that's within reason.
Yeah, within the law.
Within the law, that's right, within the law.
As far as vital records, they could get a copy, say, of a death, if it happened in Crawford County, of a death.
Well, I mean, you can get,
certificate.
if it happened in another county,
Oh,
you can get
it from your office? Okay.
Mhm. But sometimes the vital records is actually updating their system, Gavers, and if you can't pull it, sometimes they'll allow us to call that county and they'll fax it to us. But we can't do that with birth certificates.
Yeah.
Some stuff has to be redacted you still have to be within that, certain criteria, like it can be parents or grandparents or siblings, or even spouse and children, but outside of that, cousins can't get other people's birth certificates, it's just not allowed.
Right, that's a good thing, probably. So.
Well, with identity theft being as bad as it is.
Yeah.
But usually when someone passes their birth certificate, it'll show the person is deceased. So,
I would think for passport filings too, that if you get somebody else's birth certificate, that's no
right.
good.
Mm-hmm. But with passports, it's hard to get a passport sometimes, especially if you can't get all the information that they want. Because some people just don't have birth certificates. Your older generation,
They were just born at home.
They were just born at home and they don't have birth certificates, so they have to get a delayed birth certificate created. Or if it's so much is wrong with it,
Oh.
like the misspellings and the date of births are wrong. Sometimes we've had them where the year's wrong,
Wow.
and that's odd. It doesn't happen very often, but we've had it where the year was
If it
wrong.
makes you younger, you don't mind.
We've had males listed as females.
Oh.
And nowadays they back all that up, which is a good thing, but I know we had trouble getting my father's birth certificate. He was born in Irvington County, and they had a big the courthouse caught on fire.
Right.
So-
Burned down.
So-
That does make it hard to
Yes.
find records.
Yes, it does.
And we're a court of records, so we have to keep up with everything.
Yeah, yeah. How do you preserve that and back it up?
Well, we hold the legal organs at our office. We once a year we have someone come in and they bind them for us. They're actually bound and held in our room where we keep all of our records. And that's how everything's recorded. Of course, we're going to computers now, so everything's being recorded as far as probates and administrations and remote care license and marriage license and everything done is scanned on computers.
I would think that would be so hard to keep everything bound and cataloged.
That's
for
not bad.
retrieval.
What you do is we catalog everything into one book,
Okay.
and then it tells you where to go look in a certain other book.
Okay.
So it's like an index. That's a
Got it.
docket book. We can go in and we just write everyone that's ever filed. We write it down, and then we say it's recorded in this book, and you can go directly to that book, and it'll be there on that page number. We even tell you what page number to look at and everything. But we don't keep books anymore. We still have the books that's older records, but everything now is on the computer.
Okay, and it's backed up somewhere else.
Yes.
Like this.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that's good. Your brother is Roy Lewis, right?
Yes.
Okay, he's commissioner of Peach County. I didn't know
He
that
is.
until think one of your parents died, and I'm sorry, but, so it kind of,
He's the Byron area.
yeah, the Byron
Mhm.
area,
Mhm.
yeah, so kind of kept it, it runs in the family, huh?
I guess.
Service runs in the family.
He's always been involved in his community.
Was there anybody else in your family other than him that,
But, no,
no?
no one else. Well, I have some in, Upson County, but I don't see them very often, so I'm not sure if they're still county commissioners or, I think he was actually Board of Education.
Oh, okay. Don't you also do, recreation too? Don't you help with recreation?
I do. I think I'm in my 8th year helping. I really enjoy that. County's put a lot of work into the recreation, and we appreciate that very much. And they've hired a part-time director. His name's Doug Kelly. I think you know who he is.
We've
and he's
interviewed
done,
him. Mhm.
He's done an excellent job. I think it requires full-time, but it's kind of hard to.
Mhm. Yeah, Crawford County has one of the better recreation departments in Middle Georgia, I think. So.
We're very proud of it.
So.
I mean, the Flint and Georgia Power's giving money here and there to help do things, and
And you're on the board of directors for that?
no, I was on the rec board at one point, but because I'm an elected official, I had to step down.
Okay.
So I think that happened to 2 of our board members. It was me and Brad Cody, actually. We both had to step down.
So if you're an elected official, you can't serve on a board of directors?
Well, it's kind of a conflict of interest.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can see that.
I think the same thing happened to Justin Spillers, didn't it?
He's on the commissioners.
Yeah.
But, our future is our children.
That's right.
And we have to keep them busy so they won't get into trouble. And I wish there was a way to make it more accessible to the kids that just can't afford it. I know it's just, sports programs are not cheap to run, electricity gets expensive, and
The uniforms
the
and all
uniforms
that,
are
I mean, yeah.
expensive, baseballs, softballs, everything's expensive. Umpires are very expensive. Can't.
I know, the bats and the gloves are expensive, I know, I remember.
Right, it is, it's very expensive.
So what sports do they have?
We have basketball, we have baseball, softball, we have football, and then we have soccer. We
That's
added
fun.
soccer a couple of years ago, and they're looking at adding some adult leagues, hopefully. They're working on it, add adult softball. And then I told them, look at volleyball, we could have the gym up there. Be nice if we had all the facilities at one spot.
It would be.
It would be, and then, we have the basketball, where the basketball anyone can play at any point over there at the basketball court.
That's very cool. Okay, so back to probate. What are your hours?
We're open from 8 to 5. We close for lunch from 12 to 1. And the reason we close from 12 to 1 is, with it being a 2-person office, it's kind of hard to say, if I'm here by myself, I'll close for lunch. It's just easier to close for lunch. Now, if we had multiple people in there, then we would never close. We'd actually overlap our hours.
Sure.
But it's just too hard with 2 people. Like Lindsay will be off in a couple of days. I'll be there by myself, so.
You're closing the door.
Yeah, we're closing the door.
Do y'all take credit cards?
We do. There is a fee. It's associated by how much you pay. If it's based on a tier scale.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of people like to use their debit or credit cards. And it's easier and convenient. There's more of a, I guess it gives you we take online payments. So a lot of people like the convenience of not having to travel all the way to Little Crawford County to pay a speeding citation.
What do you like best about the job?
Let's see. I've always, in every job I've ever had, I've always dealt with the public. I like to deal with the public, but it's heartbreaking when you can't help them. But we try to, I think, dealing with the public and trying to help them and seeing something accomplished is what I really enjoy, is being with the public and being able to help when I can, within reason.
What's the one
Don't call and say, I got a DUI, can you throw it out? It doesn't work that way, I'm sorry.
I'm sure people do call that.
I have more nieces and nephews that I didn't know I had.
Coming out of the woodwork.
I actually had a Georgia State Patrolman say, oh yeah, I met your niece, and he told me your name. I said, that's not my niece.
That's a good try, though.
It is. But, you know, we're under a lot of restrictions too.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
I love my job. I want to help as many people as I can, but I have a job that I have to follow my rules too.
Sure.
You know, it's not as simple as you calling the judge and say, hey, I got a speeding ticket, what can you help me do? It doesn't work that way anymore. I mean, it used to, you could, you know, it's just, a lot of people complain and you can't help as many people as you want to, but that's where the solicitors come in. The solicitors actually help a lot. And we can be more behind the scenes where we're supposed to be.
Well, tell us a little bit about your training. What training do you have to go through?
Well, we have to, we're required by law to attend traffic training as well as probate training once a year. I'm also the executive director for our district now. I just came into that position, and
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I'm still learning it. We have a treat.
How many counties is the district? Is it 11?
It's 11. We're in with Bibb, Baldwin, Jones, Twiggs, Forsyth. I mean, well,
Yeah, the
Monroe
Middle
County.
Georgia regional. Yeah,
Houston
okay.
County, Bibb County,
Got it.
Wilkinson County, Peach County.
Yep. Well, congratulations.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. But it's, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking
Training.
about?
Talk about
Training.
training.
Well, we're actually, they're starting a new certificate program now for traffic, or it's more intense. And I just got back from Columbus on a 3-day class over there on just nothing but traffic and how to handle it and on what to do in certain cases. You know, you always learn from your people that have a lot more experience. And it's just, you know, they bring it open it for you where you can get your eyeballs, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't have to handle that they do handle, that if I ever do have to handle it, I can call on someone. And that's
Well,
what
that's
it is. It's a
good.
support system.
That's great.
We all have mentor judges that we can
Okay.
call on for certain situations. I like to call on Judge Harris over in Bibb County, and I'll call Diane
So,
over in Taylor.
When you were first elected, was there like probate judge school?
There you had this mandatory so many hours. I forget what it is now. I think it was 40 hours then, and you had to go to Athens, and it's called New Judges Orientation.
That's very cool. I'm really glad that they
And
do
then
that.
sometimes when you go through that New Judges Orientation, she's like, oh no, what did I get myself into? But usually it's not as bad as it comes across.
I think most people think that when they start a new job.
It is. I don't know, I didn't know it. Yeah, but it is.
What's the one thing that, you know, you're not real crazy about with your job? We all have that one thing, you know, that we don't
But
mind
you
it,
see
but
a lot of
yeah,
sad people when
yeah.
they come in and
You do. It's it's
file death
the
issues.
death certificate, especially when it's on a young person. You see, they've been killed in a car accident, and they just really upset. It's just on their unexpected death with a family member. It's just seeing the grief is hard.
I can imagine.
You know, because I have sat on the bench and cry. I try not to,
Aw.
but you know, it's.
But you got a heart, and
I
that
have a heart.
compassion is hard
I
not, I
It
can
is-
imagine.
It is heartbreaking sometimes, and but I think it's the grief, having to deal with the grief is just probably the hardest thing you have to deal with, because every circumstance is different, and I treat every circumstance as different. I don't believe in everything being black and white, because it's not. It's just not how life is.
No.
And I thank God gave me the ability to be compassionate, and I thank Him for it every time I wake up.
Well, I hear nothing but good things about the probate court, so.
Thank you. Just try to help as many people as we can. Of course, if I don't make some people mad, then I'm not doing my job.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
You know, but I try my best.
Well, we certainly appreciate the
Well,
job
I've
that you
enjoyed-
do, and we appreciate you for being here today.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I was a little nervous, still am. I get the rambling.
No, you did great.
You did
It's really
great.
great. Well, our guest today has been Pam Busbee, probate judge of Crawford County, and we appreciate you being here. We thank you for all the information. I learned a lot today.
And thank Lindsay for covering what
Yeah.
I got.
Yeah, we appreciate
She's my
both of
little
you.
bulldog. That's what I call her. She'll get on the phone and say, sorry, you can't talk to her. She's not allowed to talk to you before court. You just need to come to court.
Go, Lindsay. Yeah,
That's right.
I have mine here too.
It's
Oh.
really wonderful.
Well, thank you again, and that wraps up our edition this week. And don't forget to pick up this week's edition of the Georgia Post and the Byron Buzz. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.